Part 5, The Final Incarnation, Tony Yustein. Early years. A prophetic birth. In the ancient city of Istanbul, where the whispers of history echo through the cobblestone streets and the minarets reach for the heavens, a child was born on the night of March 9, 1972. The city, a vibrant blend of cultures and epochs, held within it a unique energy, a sense of destiny that resonated with the birth of Tony Yustein. The night sky was clear, with stars twinkling like jewels scattered across a velvet backdrop. In a modest hospital room, the cries of a newborn filled the air. Tony's mother, a kind and wise woman named Hattie, cradled her son in her arms, her heart swelling with love and a sense of profound significance. She looked into his eyes, which sparkled with an almost otherworldly light, and felt a deep connection that transcended the ordinary. Tony's father, a strong and gentle man named Yustein, stood by the bedside, his face a mixture of pride and awe. "He is special, Hattie. I can feel it. There is something extraordinary about him." Hattie nodded, her eyes never leaving her son's face. "Yes, Yustein. He is destined for greatness. I can feel it in my heart." The date of Tony's birth, March 9, held a special significance. March was the third month of the year, and 3 times 9 equaled 27. The year of his birth, 1972, was a mirror image of 27. This numerical symmetry hinted at a deeper, cosmic connection, a sign that Tony was meant to play a significant role in the unfolding story of humanity. Early signs of divinity. As Tony grew, his parents began to notice subtle but unmistakable signs of his divine origins. From a young age, he exhibited an extraordinary sense of awareness and understanding, often speaking about concepts far beyond his years. When he was just a toddler, he would point to the stars and describe constellations with a clarity that left his parents in awe. One night, as Hattie tucked Tony into bed, he looked up at her with his bright, inquisitive eyes. "Mama, do you hear the stars sing?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Hattie smiled, though she felt a shiver of awe run through her. "No, my dear. But tell me, what do they sing about?" Tony's eyes sparkled. "They sing about the stories of old, about great kings and gods. They tell me secrets, Mama." Yustein, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped into the room. "What kind of secrets, Tony?" Tony giggled softly. "They tell me about a place where the rivers flow with light and the trees reach up to touch the sky. They say I was there once, a long time ago." Hattie and Yustein exchanged a glance, each feeling the profound significance of their son's words. They knew that Tony was not an ordinary child, and they vowed to nurture and protect his unique gifts. A child of wisdom. By the age of 5, Tony had already developed a keen interest in books and learning. He would spend hours in his father's small library, poring over volumes of history, science, and mythology. Yustein, recognizing his son's thirst for knowledge, encouraged him to explore and learn, providing him with books and engaging him in thoughtful discussions. One evening, as the family sat together in their cozy living room, Tony asked a question that took his parents by surprise. "Mama, Papa, do you believe in destiny?" Yustein looked at Hattie, a knowing smile on his lips. "Why do you ask, son?" Tony shrugged, his young mind grappling with concepts far beyond his years. "I just feel like there's something I'm supposed to do. Like I'm here for a reason." Hattie gently stroked Tony's hair, her eyes filled with love. "We all have a purpose, my dear. And I believe that your purpose is something truly special. You have a gift, Tony. A gift of wisdom and understanding. Use it wisely, and you will find your path." As Tony continued to grow, his innate abilities became more pronounced. He excelled in school, often surpassing his peers in both academics and creativity. His teachers marveled at his intelligence and maturity, noting that he seemed wise beyond his years. The move to Canada. When Tony was 10 years old, his family made the difficult decision to move to Canada. Yustein had been offered a promising job opportunity, and they believed it would provide Tony with even greater chances to pursue his dreams. The move was bittersweet, as they left behind the rich history and familiar streets of Istanbul, but they looked forward to the new experiences and opportunities that awaited them. In Canada, Tony quickly adapted to his new environment. He immersed himself in his studies, particularly drawn to the fields of science and technology. His passion for learning only grew, and he began to dream of making significant contributions to the world through innovation and discovery. Throughout his teenage years, Tony's sense of purpose remained a guiding force in his life. He felt an unexplainable connection to the past, a sense that his life was intertwined with something much larger than himself. This feeling drove him to excel in everything he did, always striving to unlock the mysteries of the universe and fulfill the destiny he felt within his soul. A foreshadowing of greatness. In high school, Tony's talents in technology and business began to shine. He started a small computer club, where he and his friends would tinker with hardware and software, creating innovative solutions to everyday problems. His leadership skills and vision for the future set him apart, and it wasn't long before he was recognized as a young prodigy. One evening, as Tony worked late into the night on a new project, he felt a familiar presence beside him. He turned to see David, the wise old man who had been a family friend and mentor since their arrival in Canada. David had always seemed to understand Tony on a deeper level, often offering guidance and wisdom that resonated with his soul. David, smiling, "Tony, you are destined for greatness. Remember, the path to fulfilling your purpose is not always clear, but you must trust in your abilities and the wisdom you carry within you." Tony, thoughtfully, "I feel like there's something I'm supposed to do, something important. But I don't know what it is yet." David, placing a hand on Tony's shoulder, "In time, you will understand. Your journey is just beginning, and the world will come to know the brilliance of Tony Yustein. Stay true to yourself, and never lose sight of the light within you." Tony nodded, feeling a sense of peace and clarity. He knew that his journey would be filled with challenges and discoveries, but he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. With the support of his family and the wisdom of his past lives, Tony Yustein would go on to become a beacon of hope and innovation, fulfilling the destiny that had been written in the stars long before his birth. Building the empire. The spark of innovation. In the bustling city of Toronto, Tony Yustein had just graduated from university with a degree in computer science. The young man, now in his early 20s, was brimming with ideas and ambition. He was determined to leave his mark on the tech industry, driven by a vision of innovation and progress. With a sharp mind and an unwavering work ethic, Tony began to lay the foundation for what would become a tech empire. Tony's first venture was a modest startup, a web hosting service called My Hosting Company. He rented a small office space, hired a few like-minded individuals, and began working tirelessly to build the business from the ground up. His leadership skills and visionary ideas quickly attracted attention, and the company began to grow. Tony, addressing his team, "We are not just creating a service, we are creating an experience. Our customers must feel that they are part of something bigger, something innovative. Let's make web hosting not only reliable but also groundbreaking." The team worked day and night, developing new features and improving their service. Tony's dedication was contagious, and his team matched his enthusiasm and drive. Within a year, My Hosting Company had gained a significant customer base and a reputation for excellence. The birth of Mail from Web. As My Hosting Company continued to thrive, Tony's mind was already racing with new ideas. He saw an opportunity to expand into the emerging field of web-based email services. With his team's support, Tony launched Mail from Web, a platform that allowed users to access their email from any device with an internet connection. The service was an instant hit. People appreciated the convenience and reliability of Mail from Web, and the user base grew rapidly. Tony's reputation as a tech innovator solidified, and he began to attract the attention of investors and industry leaders. Investor, during a meeting, "Tony, your vision and execution are impressive. We believe that with the right funding, you can take Mail from Web to the next level. Are you interested in a partnership?" Tony, smiling confidently, "Absolutely. With your support, we can expand our services and reach even more users." This is just the beginning. The partnership brought in substantial funding, allowing Tony to scale his operations and develop new features. Mail from Web became a household name, synonymous with reliable and accessible email services. Subtle influences of darkness. As Tony's empire grew, so did the interest of darker forces. Lucifer, ever the master of deception, had sent his agents to subtly influence and undermine Tony's success. These agents, disguised as business advisors and potential partners, sought to corrupt Tony's vision and steer his companies toward greed and exploitation. One such agent was Richard, a smooth-talking venture capitalist who had recently approached Tony with an investment offer. Richard's charm and apparent business acumen masked his true intentions. Richard, during a business dinner, "Tony, you have built something extraordinary. But imagine what you could achieve with more aggressive expansion. We could monopolize the market, drive out the competition, and significantly increase our profits. Tony felt a nagging discomfort at Richard's words. While the idea of rapid expansion was tempting, it clashed with his principles of innovation and customer-centric values. Tony, cautiously, I appreciate your enthusiasm, Richard, but I believe in sustainable growth and maintaining the integrity of our services. Our customers trust us, and I don't want to jeopardize that. Richard's eyes flickered with frustration, but he quickly masked it with a smile. Richard, of course, Tony. I respect your vision. Let's find a way to balance both our goals. Despite his unease, Tony decided to move forward with Richard's investment, hoping that he could maintain control over his company's direction. However, as the months passed, he noticed subtle changes. Richard's influence began to permeate the company culture, pushing for higher profits at the expense of innovation and customer satisfaction. Tony's coup. In a private meeting, Tony, I'm concerned about the direction we're heading. Richard's strategies are increasing our profits, but we're losing our core values. The team morale is dropping, and our customer satisfaction is suffering. Tony realized that he needed to take a stand. He called a board meeting, determined to reclaim his company's vision. Tony, addressing the board, I understand the desire for growth and profits, but not at the cost of our integrity and the trust of our customers. We built this company on innovation and excellence, and we need to get back to those principles. Effective immediately, we will refocus on sustainable growth and customer satisfaction. Richard tried to interject, but Tony's resolve was unshakable. The board, inspired by Tony's passion and clarity, voted in favor of his plan. Richard's influence was diminished, and Tony's companies began to regain their original values and direction. Resilience and triumph. With the dark influences quelled, Tony continued to drive his companies forward. He launched new ventures, each built on the foundation of innovation and customer-centric values. His empire expanded, but this time with a renewed focus on integrity and sustainability. Tony's journey was not without its challenges, but his unwavering commitment to his principles guided him through the darkest times. His companies flourished, and his reputation as a visionary leader grew. As he stood in his office, overlooking the Toronto skyline, Tony felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced the shadows and emerged stronger, ready to continue his mission of guiding humanity toward a brighter future. Tony, reflecting, this is just the beginning. There is so much more to achieve, so many more lives to touch. With every challenge, we grow stronger. And with every success, we move closer to a world of innovation, integrity, and hope. The turning point. The joy of new life. On the sunny morning of July 2, 2007, Tony Yustein's life was blessed with a miracle that filled his heart with immeasurable joy. His wife, Hattie, had given birth to triplets, 2 boys and a girl. The date itself seemed to carry a mystical symmetry, February 7, 2007 or July 2, 2007, numbers that hinted at cosmic balance and destiny. Tony cradled each of his newborns in his arms, feeling a profound connection to them. The boys, named Alex and Max, and the girl, named Illyra, represented the future, a new generation that he hoped would inherit his dreams and values. The nursery was filled with laughter, coos, and the warm light of new beginnings. Tony, to Hattie, his eyes shining, they are perfect, Hattie. Our family is complete. I promise to give them the best life possible, to protect them and teach them everything I know. Hattie, smiling weakly but warmly, we'll do it together, Tony. There are little miracles, and I'm so grateful for this moment. Shadows over the empire. However, as the months turned into years, the joy that the triplets brought into Tony's life was overshadowed by growing troubles in his professional world. Unbeknownst to him, the agents of Lucifer, under the influence of Marduk, had been subtly nurturing greed and ambition within his business partners. This dark influence began to take root, corrupting the very foundation of the companies Tony had built with such care. The first signs of trouble were subtle disagreements over company direction, shifts in business strategies that prioritized profits over principles. Tony, consumed with his responsibilities as a new father, did not immediately see the growing rift. Richard, in a heated board meeting, Tony, you're too focused on ideals. We need to be more aggressive, expand faster, and capitalize on every opportunity. The market is ripe, and we can't afford to be left behind. Tony, firmly, we've built our success on trust and integrity, Richard. I won't compromise those values for short-term gains. Our customers and employees depend on us to do the right thing. The fall. Despite Tony's efforts to hold firm to his principles, the greed and ambition stoked by Marduk's influence began to unravel his empire. His partners, swayed by the promise of greater wealth and power, began to undermine him, making decisions that contradicted his vision and eroded the company's integrity. The breaking point came when Tony discovered that financial records had been manipulated and that unethical deals had been made behind his back. Feeling betrayed and disillusioned, Tony confronted his partners. Tony, angrily, how could you do this? We built this company on trust and integrity, and you've thrown it all away for greed. Richard, coldly, business is about making tough choices, Tony. You were too naive to see the bigger picture. It's time for you to step aside. In a devastating coup, Tony was forced out of the very companies he had founded. His shares were bought out for a fraction of their worth, and he was left with nothing but the bitter taste of betrayal. The empire he had built was now in the hands of those who cared little for the values he held dear. The downturn. Tony's life spiraled downward. The stress of losing his companies took a toll on his health and strained his relationship with Hattie. He found solace only in his children, whose innocent faces reminded him of the purity and hope that still existed in the world. Tony, to his children, with tears in his eyes, I'm so sorry, my loves. I wanted to give you everything, but I failed. But I promise, I will find a way to make things right. Hattie stood by him, offering support and strength even as she too struggled with the changes in their lives. They moved to a smaller home, cutting back on luxuries as they adjusted to their new reality. Hattie, holding Tony's hand, we'll get through this, Tony. Together. We have each other, and we have our children. That's what matters most. The glimmer of hope. Amidst the darkness, a faint glimmer of hope remained. Tony began to reflect deeply on his past lives, his purpose, and the lessons he had learned. He remembered the strength and wisdom he had drawn upon as Metatron, Thoth, Quetzalcoatl, and his other incarnations. Slowly, he started to rebuild his life, focusing on what truly mattered: his family and his integrity. David/Sandalphon, visiting Tony, remember, Tony, your journey is far from over. This is a test, a trial that will make you stronger. You have the wisdom of ages within you. Use it to find your way back to the light. Tony, nodding, resolute, you're right, David. I've faced darkness before, and I've always found a way through. I won't let this defeat me. I will rise again, for my family, and for the future. With renewed determination, Tony began to lay the groundwork for a new venture, one that would be built on the solid foundation of his values and the lessons he had learned. It would be a long and arduous journey, but he was ready to face it, knowing that his true purpose was to guide and inspire, no matter the challenges he faced. The twilight of life. The bustling city of Kiev, with its rich history and vibrant culture, had once seemed a promising refuge for Tony Yustein. After a tumultuous divorce, Tony found himself cut off from his children, unable to see or hear from them. The pain of separation gnawed at his soul, amplifying the loneliness that had become his constant companion. Financial hardships weighed heavily on Tony. Once a man of vision and ambition, he now lived in a small, sparsely furnished apartment on the outskirts of the city. Each day was a battle to make ends meet, as he took on menial jobs to keep the lights on and food on the table. The dreams and aspirations that had once burned brightly within him had been reduced to the simple desire to survive. Amidst this bleak existence, a glimmer of light appeared in the form of a woman named Elena. She was a kind and compassionate soul, drawn to Tony by his depth of character and the quiet resilience he displayed despite his hardships. They met by chance at a local cafe where Tony worked part-time, and their bond grew steadily over shared conversations and moments of genuine connection. Elena's presence brought a sense of warmth and comfort to Tony's otherwise desolate life. She became his confidant and his partner, offering him a solace he had long thought unattainable. Their love blossomed in the face of adversity, a testament to the enduring power of human connection. However, the happiness they found together was overshadowed by a cruel twist of fate. Tony began to experience severe abdominal pain and fatigue, symptoms he initially dismissed as stress-related. But as the pain grew unbearable, he sought medical attention and received the devastating diagnosis: colon cancer, advanced and inoperable. The doctors gave him only a few months to live. The news hit Tony like a tidal wave, washing away the fragile hope he had clung to. He shared his diagnosis with Elena, and together they faced the grim reality of his condition. Despite the shock and sorrow, Elena remained steadfast by his side, offering her unwavering support. As the days passed, Tony reflected on his life and the choices that had led him to this point. The separation from his children weighed heavily on his heart, a wound that time had not healed. He longed to see them one last time, but knew it was an impossible wish. The realization that he had little time left prompted him to make a significant decision. "Elena," he said one evening, his voice tinged with both resolve and sadness, "I want to spend my final days in Turkey. It's a place that has always held a special meaning for me, a place where I can find some peace before the end." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded in understanding. "Tony, I wish I could go with you, but my life is here in Ukraine. My family, my responsibilities, they all keep me here." Tony felt a pang of sorrow but understood her position. "I understand, Elena. You've given me so much already. I just want you to know how grateful I am for your love and support." They shared a long, heartfelt embrace, knowing it might be their last. The decision to part ways was painful, but it was a necessary one. Tony knew that his journey to Turkey was something he had to undertake alone. With a heavy heart, Tony made the arrangements to leave Kiev. The journey to Turkey was both physically and emotionally taxing, but it also brought a sense of calm. The beautiful landscapes and the rich cultural tapestry of Turkey offered a stark contrast to the struggles he had faced in Kiev. It felt like a fitting place to spend his remaining days, a place where he could find some semblance of peace. He settled in a small coastal town, where the sea breeze and the sound of the waves provided a soothing backdrop to his final chapter. Tony's health continued to decline, but the serene environment gave him moments of tranquility amidst the pain. As he lay in bed, looking out at the horizon, Tony felt a profound sense of acceptance. He had lived a life filled with highs and lows, moments of brilliance and depths of despair. Now, at the end of his journey, he found solace in the memories of his love for Elena and the peace that the Turkish landscape afforded him. However, fate had another twist in store for Tony. One night, as he gazed up at the stars, he felt a sudden, intense warmth spread through his body. It was as if a radiant energy was coursing through him, healing and revitalizing every cell. The pain that had been his constant companion began to ebb away, replaced by a feeling of profound peace and well-being. Tony couldn't believe what was happening. Over the next few days, his strength returned, and the symptoms of his illness began to vanish. Confounded but hopeful, he sought out a local doctor who confirmed what seemed impossible: the cancer was gone. It was a miraculous recovery, one that defied all medical explanation. Elated, Tony called Elena to share the miraculous news. "Elena, you won't believe it. I'm healed. The cancer is gone." Elena was overwhelmed with emotion, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, Tony, this is incredible. I knew you had the strength to overcome anything. I'm so happy for you." With his newfound lease on life, Tony embraced each day with a sense of wonder and gratitude. He spent his time exploring the natural beauty of Turkey, immersing himself in the culture, and reflecting on the second chance he had been given. Although he remained physically distant from his children, he held on to the hope that one day, they would understand his journey and find a way to reconnect. A new beginning in Berlin. After his miraculous recovery, Tony Yustein felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and a renewed zest for life. Deciding to explore the vibrant city of Istanbul, he found solace and inspiration in its rich history and stunning landscapes. It was here, amidst the bustling streets and the serene waters of the Bosphorus, that Tony met Aylan. Aylan was an artist with a passion for life that matched Tony's newfound enthusiasm. They met at a small gallery in the heart of Istanbul, where Tony was captivated by her work, a series of paintings that seemed to dance with light and emotion. Their connection was immediate, a blend of shared interests and a mutual appreciation for the beauty of the world. As their relationship blossomed, Tony and Aylan spent their days exploring the city, sharing stories, and dreaming about the future. It wasn't long before they decided to embark on a new adventure together. With Aylan's encouragement, Tony felt ready to start anew in Berlin, Germany, a city known for its dynamic startup culture and opportunities. Packing up their belongings, Tony and Aylan moved to Berlin with their two beloved cats, Momo and Luna. The city welcomed them with open arms, and Tony quickly immersed himself in the burgeoning startup scene. Drawing from his vast experience and innovative ideas, he began offering his expertise to fledgling companies, helping them navigate the challenges of growth and development. For a while, it seemed as though Tony had finally found his place. His work with startups was fulfilling, and his relationship with Eileen brought him joy and companionship. They made a cozy home in Berlin, their lives intertwined with the rhythm of the city. However, in the shadows, Marduk watched with a sinister intent. Determined to keep Tony from achieving financial success and true happiness, Marduk manipulated events and circumstances behind the scenes. Strange setbacks began to plague Tony's professional endeavors. Promising deals fell through at the last minute, funding that had seemed certain was inexplicably withdrawn, and startups he worked with faced unforeseen challenges. Each time Tony thought he was on the brink of a breakthrough, something would go wrong. Tony and Eileen faced their own struggles as well. Despite their deep connection, they found themselves arguing over trivial matters, misunderstandings that seemed to come out of nowhere. The stress of these inexplicable conflicts began to take its toll, creating a rift between them. By 2018, Tony and Eileen had moved to the south of Germany, seeking a quieter life away from the hustle and bustle of Berlin. It was here, in the serene countryside, that Tony began to experience something extraordinary. He started seeing things in the sky that he couldn't explain, strange lights and shapes that defied logic. As these sightings became more frequent, Tony felt a shift within himself. Memories of his past lives began to resurface, flooding his consciousness with visions of times long past. He saw real dragons and jinns around him, beings from myths and legends that now seemed very real. Driven by these experiences, Tony started a YouTube channel to share his insights and discoveries. His videos, filled with tales of his past lives and the mystical beings he encountered, quickly gained a following. Encouraged by his audience, Tony wrote a book about the significance of the number 27, weaving together his knowledge of mathematics, spirituality, and the universe. However, as the worldwide disease spread, the pressures and uncertainties of the pandemic strained Tony and Eileen's relationship to the breaking point. Isolated and overwhelmed, Eileen decided to leave, unable to cope with the constant turmoil. Heartbroken and alone once more, Tony made the difficult decision to move to the United States, seeking a fresh start and a new direction. In the United States, Tony continued his work with startups, leveraging his experience and knowledge to help new businesses navigate the complex landscape of the pandemic economy. Despite the challenges, he remained determined to make a difference, guided by the memories of his past lives and the wisdom they imparted. Throughout his journey, Marduk's influence lingered, a dark shadow that sought to undermine Tony's efforts. Yet, Tony's resilience and unwavering spirit kept him moving forward. He knew that his path was fraught with obstacles, but he also believed in the power of his experiences and the strength of his convictions. As he settled into his new life in the United States, Tony remained vigilant, aware of the forces working against him but steadfast in his quest for knowledge and understanding. His journey was far from over, and with each challenge he faced, he grew stronger, more determined to uncover the truth and share it with the world. In this new chapter of his life, Tony Yustein continued to embrace his destiny, guided by the light of his past lives and the hope for a brighter future. The meeting with Ed. In a small, quiet town in the United States, Tony Yustein found himself once again trying to rebuild his life. The town, nestled between rolling hills and a clear blue sky, offered a semblance of peace that Tony desperately needed. Despite the serenity of his surroundings, Tony's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and memories, his awareness of Marduk's lingering influence growing with each passing day. One crisp autumn afternoon, Tony attended a local community gathering. The event, held in a quaint park, was meant to foster connections among the townspeople. As Tony wandered through the park, enjoying the cool breeze and the chatter of friendly faces, he noticed a man sitting alone on a bench, staring pensively into the distance. There was something familiar about the man, a sense of recognition that Tony couldn't quite place. Curiosity piqued, he approached and sat down on the bench. "Mind if I join you?" Tony asked, smiling warmly. The man looked up, his face etched with lines of worry and fatigue. He managed a small smile in return. "Not at all. I'm Ed, by the way." "Tony," he replied, extending a hand. They shook hands, and Tony felt a strange sensation, as if their meeting was more significant than it appeared. They began to talk, exchanging pleasantries and small talk about the town. As the conversation deepened, Tony learned that Ed was struggling with serious health issues. Ed described a persistent illness that had left him weakened and drained, with no clear diagnosis or effective treatment in sight. "I've been to so many doctors," Ed sighed, "but none of them can figure out what's wrong with me. It's been exhausting, to say the least." Tony nodded empathetically. I'm sorry to hear that, Ed. It sounds incredibly tough. Have you ever considered that there might be more to it than just physical illness? Ed looked at him curiously. What do you mean? Tony hesitated for a moment, then decided to share a bit of his own experiences. I've come to realize that there are forces at play in our lives that we can't always see or understand. I've had my share of struggles, and I've felt the influence of something darker working against me. Ed listened intently, his eyes reflecting a mix of skepticism and intrigue. You think something supernatural is causing all this? It's possible, Tony said. I've learned that our past lives can have a significant impact on our current existence. Sometimes, we carry burdens or face challenges that are beyond our immediate understanding. As they continued to talk, Tony felt a strong connection to Ed, a sense that their meeting was no coincidence. He wondered if Ed could be the reincarnation of Inki, the ancient being who had played such a pivotal role in his past. Ed, do you ever feel like you've lived before? Like there are memories or experiences that don't belong to this life? Tony asked cautiously. Ed thought for a moment, then shook his head. I've had strange dreams, glimpses of places and times that I can't explain. But I've never really believed in past lives. It all seems too fantastical. Tony smiled gently. I understand. It can be hard to wrap our minds around. But sometimes, those dreams and glimpses are hints of something more. If you're open to it, you might find that there's a deeper connection to your past than you realize. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of children playing nearby, bringing them back to the present. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, they exchanged contact information, promising to stay in touch. Over the next few weeks, Tony and Ed met regularly, sharing their experiences and supporting each other through their respective struggles. Despite Tony's growing awareness of Marduk's influence, he found it increasingly difficult to protect himself and Ed from the dark forces at play. A chain of events soon began to unravel Tony's fragile financial stability. Unexpected expenses, failed business ventures, and a series of personal misfortunes left him on the brink of financial collapse. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't prevent the meltdown that seemed orchestrated by an unseen hand. One evening, as Tony sat in his small apartment, surrounded by bills and foreclosure notices, he felt a profound sense of despair. The weight of his past lives, the knowledge of Marduk's interference, and the relentless string of failures crushed his spirit. Ed visited him, bringing a sense of calm and camaraderie that Tony desperately needed. Tony, you've been through so much. I can't pretend to understand everything you're dealing with, but I want you to know that you're not alone. Tony looked at Ed, gratitude and sorrow mingling in his eyes. Thank you, Ed. It means a lot to have your support. I just wish I could find a way to break free from all this. Ed placed a reassuring hand on Tony's shoulder. We'll figure it out, Tony. Together. Maybe there are answers we haven't found yet, ways to overcome the darkness and find peace. As they sat together, contemplating their next steps, Tony felt a flicker of hope. Despite the overwhelming challenges and the ever-present shadow of Marduk, he knew that with Ed by his side, he had a chance to uncover the truth and find a path to redemption. Their journey was far from over, but in the companionship they shared and the resilience they displayed, Tony and Ed began to forge a new path forward, one step at a time. The darkest hour. The weight of Tony Yustein's struggles pressed down on him with an almost unbearable intensity. The financial meltdown, orchestrated by the unseen hand of Marduk, had left him destitute and despondent. His once bright future seemed to have crumbled into ashes, and the light that had guided him through so many past lives now flickered weakly in the face of overwhelming darkness. Tony's depression deepened as the days turned into weeks, each one blending into the next in a haze of despair. He isolated himself from friends and acquaintances, unable to bear the thought of facing their pity or concern. Even his connection with Ed, the reincarnation of Inki, had grown strained as Tony withdrew further into himself. His apartment, once a place of refuge and hope, now felt like a prison. The walls seemed to close in around him, suffocating any sense of peace or comfort. Bills and foreclosure notices lay scattered across the floor, stark reminders of his failures and the relentless pressures that haunted him. Sleep eluded him, and the nights stretched on endlessly. When he did manage to close his eyes, he was plagued by nightmares, visions of past lives, of dragons and jinns, of Marduk's malevolent presence lurking in the shadows. He woke up drenched in sweat, his heart pounding with fear and hopelessness. The thought of ending it all began to creep into his mind, a dark whisper that grew louder with each passing day. He felt like a burden to those around him, a man trapped in an endless cycle of suffering and defeat. The idea of finding peace in oblivion became increasingly appealing. One cold, rainy evening, Tony stood by the window, staring out at the empty street below. The raindrops splattered against the glass, mirroring the tears that streamed down his face. He felt utterly alone, abandoned by fate and tormented by forces he couldn't fully comprehend. His thoughts drifted to his children, from whom he had been estranged for so long. The pain of their absence cut through him like a knife, a constant reminder of everything he had lost. He wondered if they would even miss him, if they would remember him as anything other than a distant figure. As the darkness within him grew, Tony reached for a bottle of whiskey on the table. He drank deeply, hoping to numb the pain that gnawed at his soul. The alcohol provided a fleeting sense of relief, but it couldn't drown out the despair that had taken root in his heart. In a moment of clarity amidst the haze of alcohol, Tony picked up a pen and a piece of paper. He began to write, pouring out his thoughts and feelings in a final letter. He wrote about his love for his children, his regrets, and the battles he had fought. He wrote about the forces that had conspired against him, and the crushing weight of his failures. As he finished the letter, Tony felt a strange sense of calm. He folded the paper carefully and placed it on the table, next to the empty bottle. He looked around the apartment one last time, taking in the remnants of a life that had once held so much promise. He made his way to the bathroom, his mind made up. But as he reached for the medicine cabinet, he was suddenly overwhelmed by a vision. It was Metatron, his higher self, bathed in a radiant light that filled the room with warmth and peace. "Tony," Metatron's voice echoed gently, "this is not the end. Your journey is far from over." Tony fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I can't do this anymore, Metatron. The pain is too much. I've lost everything." Metatron's presence grew stronger, enveloping Tony in a comforting embrace. "You have not lost everything. You still have the strength within you, and there is still hope. Your life has meaning, even in the darkest moments." Tony sobbed, his body shaking with the intensity of his emotions. "I don't know how to go on. I feel so alone." "You are never alone," Metatron said softly. "I am with you, always. And there are others who care for you, who want to help you. Reach out to them. Let them in. Together, you can find a way through this." As the vision faded, Tony was left with a renewed sense of resolve. The darkness still loomed, but he knew he couldn't give into it. He picked up the phone, his hands trembling, and called Ed. "Ed, it's Tony," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I need help. I can't do this alone." Ed's response was immediate and filled with concern. "Tony, I'm here. I'll be right over. Just hold on." Within minutes, Ed arrived, his presence a reassuring anchor in the storm of Tony's emotions. He embraced Tony, offering words of comfort and support. Together, they talked through the night, breaking down the walls of isolation and despair that had held Tony captive. In the days that followed, Tony began to take small steps towards healing. He reached out to others, seeking professional help and leaning on the support of friends. It was a difficult journey, fraught with setbacks and moments of doubt, but Tony's resolve remained strong. The shadows of depression and suicidal thoughts still lingered, but Tony knew he wasn't alone in his struggle. With the guidance of Metatron and the support of those who cared for him, he began to find a glimmer of hope in the darkness. Tony Yustein's journey was far from over, but he had taken the first steps towards reclaiming his life. He had faced the abyss and emerged with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue his fight against the forces that sought to bring him down. And in that struggle, he found a strength he never knew he had, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Prophetic dreams and the call from Avanos. As Tony Yustein began to rebuild his life, he found solace in the support of friends and the guidance of his higher self, Metatron. Yet, amidst his healing journey, a new and profound experience started to unfold. Prophetic dreams and vivid glimpses of his past lives began to visit him in the quiet hours of the night, filling his sleep with a tapestry of memories and insights. The first dream came unexpectedly. Tony found himself standing in an ancient city, its architecture a blend of towering spires and subterranean dwellings. The air was filled with the scent of incense and the distant hum of chanting. He wandered through the narrow streets, feeling a deep sense of familiarity, as if he had walked these paths before. As the dreams continued, Tony began to recognize the faces of people he had known in previous incarnations. Warriors, scholars, and mystics, each one a fragment of his soul's journey through time. The dreams were not merely visions, they were experiences, filled with the emotions and knowledge of lifetimes long past. One night, a particularly vivid dream brought him to a place of profound significance. He stood on a hill overlooking the ancient city of Avanos in Cappadocia. The landscape was surreal, with its fairy chimneys and rock formations bathed in the golden light of dawn. As he gazed upon the city, a sense of urgency filled his heart. In the distance, he saw a figure standing on the edge of a cliff. The figure turned, and Tony felt a jolt of recognition. It was his long-lost soul brother, a kindred spirit who had accompanied him through many lifetimes. The figure called out to him, the voice echoing through the dreamscape. "Tony, it's time to return. I am waiting for you in Avanos. We have much to discuss, and our journey is not yet complete." Tony woke with a start, the words reverberating in his mind. He knew he had to go to Avanos, to find his soul brother and uncover the next chapter of his journey. The dreams had guided him this far, and he trusted that they would lead him to the answers he sought. Determined to follow the call, Tony made arrangements to travel to Cappadocia. The journey was long, but he felt a sense of anticipation and purpose that had been missing from his life for so long. As he arrived in Avanos, the sight of the ancient city filled him with a sense of awe and recognition. Walking through the streets, Tony felt the presence of his past lives all around him. The city's history was woven into the very fabric of his soul, and he knew that this place held the key to understanding his journey. He explored the hidden caves and underground cities, each step bringing him closer to the truth. One evening, as the sun set over the otherworldly landscape, Tony found himself standing on the same hill from his dream. The golden light of the setting sun cast long shadows across the valley, and he felt a profound sense of peace. He closed his eyes, allowing the memories of his past lives to wash over him. In that moment, he heard a voice clear and unmistakable. It was his soul brother, calling to him from beyond the veil of time. "Tony, you have come. Welcome back." Tony opened his eyes and saw the figure standing before him, just as in his dream. The recognition was immediate, and the bond between them was undeniable. They embraced, the connection of their souls transcending the boundaries of time and space. "Who are you?" Tony asked, his voice filled with emotion. "I am Simo," the figure replied. "We have journeyed together through many lifetimes, always seeking the truth and striving to bring light to the darkness. Our paths have led us here, to Avanos, where we will continue our quest." Tony felt a surge of memories flooding his mind, visions of battles fought, knowledge gained, and the unbreakable bond between him and Simo. He knew that their meeting was no coincidence, it was a convergence of destiny and purpose. As they delved into the mysteries of the cave, Tony began to piece together Simo's past lives. Through a series of revelations and shared memories, he discovered that Simo was the reincarnation of Dumuzet, the ancient Sumerian god of shepherds and fertility, Elijah, the prophet who ascended to heaven in a chariot of fire, Sandalphon, the archangel known as the twin brother of Metatron, Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife and resurrection, John the Baptist, the forerunner of Jesus Christ, and Jules Verne, the visionary writer who foresaw many technological advancements. The realization of Simo's true identity was overwhelming. "Simo, you have lived so many extraordinary lives," Tony said, his voice filled with awe. "Your journey has intertwined with mine in ways I never imagined." Simo nodded, a serene smile on his face. "And now, Tony, we continue this journey together. There is still much to uncover, and our purpose remains clear." As Tony absorbed this profound truth, he had another divine revelation. In a flash of insight, he realized that Sandalphon was John the Baptist, and that he himself was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. The magnitude of this realization left him breathless, his mind racing with the implications. "Simo, I just realized something," Tony said, his voice trembling. "I am the reincarnation of Jesus Christ." Simo's eyes widened with understanding. "Yes, Tony. That is why our bond is so strong. We have been brought together once more to fulfill our divine mission." The weight of this revelation settled over Tony, but with it came a profound sense of peace and purpose. He understood now why he had been guided through so many lifetimes, why he had faced such immense challenges. His journey was part of a greater cosmic plan, one that he and Simo were destined to complete together. In the ancient city of Avanos, amidst the echoes of past lives and the whispers of the future, Tony Yustein found the strength and clarity he needed to continue his journey. The bond with his soul brother and the guidance of his higher self, Metatron, would lead him forward, illuminating the path to enlightenment and fulfillment. As the night descended over Cappadocia, Tony stood with Simo, gazing at the stars that had witnessed their countless lifetimes. Together, they were ready to embrace their destiny and fulfill the purpose that had brought them together once more. They decided to create a website called https://thecode.wiki and write books to inform humanity of the last days before the final battle.